ever felt so much pain, so much rage, so much anger, so much bitterness, that is a woman that is scorned. Now, I want to talk about the women that have been scorned in relationship. This isn't about, blaming women. This is a conversation about understanding how deep these emotional wounds come about when a woman has been scorned, how they feel when this person has hurt them, and how do you heal from it. And so if you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever been discarded, if you've ever been emotionally abandoned, this message is for you. And please stay with me all the way to the end, because I want to give you something that you could be a part of with me weekly or monthly and really understand how to deal with the pain and the changes that you go through so that you can have a better understanding about what happens within situations that happen within your life that I have to offer. So stay apart. So you would love Dr. Pamela. Thank you for joining me. We're on another journey of helping you understand how to have great and successful love. If it's to seek to find love, just to enhance love. That's what I'm here to help you. I've been doing this for over 15 years, and so I hope that your staying a part of the Love Doctor is going to give you some information that's going to help you along your journey in relationships. Okay? So continue to hit that link and subscribe and the like button and definitely the notification bell, because I'm coming every day to give you what I believe will help you in your relationships, that some things you're missing. Okay? So thank you for being a part. So let's get right into this. What is a woman scorned? And this is what I want those who don't understand, what is it, so you can recognize possibly a person that is coming to your life that may be scorned, and you need to recognize what is happening. A woman scorned is a person who's attached from a system where she's been violated. Some kind of way she was violated. Her emotional state has been injured. It could be emotional wall up. It could be hostility or withdrawal. It could be a loss of trust. It could be her being bitter to want to possibly harm someone. And so this is when a woman is scorned on the basis of the things I'm going to tell you, what may have caused her to be that way. And you need to recognize that, because it's so easily, and women who are this way, they seek sometime revenge. And they do things to get back at the person they believe that has done something to them. So let me go into a few. I'm going to try not to do too many because there's a lot, but I just want to give you my top ones that I found that mostly happen to most women. And I want you to be aware of when this happened. One is betrayal. And this is when a woman has been cheated on, lied to, or been in a situation where that person had a double relationship or a double life. And what causes this is that that the trust has been shattered because that person cheated or lied. And I talked about it. If you missed that, please go watch my previous video about betrayal and people that cheat, lie. So what happens is this person can become enraged, disgust. They start having intrusive thoughts. They have an emotional shutdown. And so you have to be aware of somebody that's been cheated or lied. Find out through conversation. Another one is emotional neglect. When a woman has been emotionally neglected, she is on the basis of chronic lack of attention from the mate that she was involved with. No affection and no validation. So she feels emotionally neglected. And what happened is the loneliness inside that relationship caused her resentment in the present relationship. So you have to be really mindful of that. And sometimes that type of person don't want to be emotionally alone. Okay. Another one is they've been publicly humiliated or disrespected. And it was caused by being either shamed or belittled or mocked by their partner. And so the effect causes them to have a lack of worth of themselves. So they lose their self-esteem. They become defensive and they're hostile. So you really have to pay attention to how they're acting towards you, because that's what that type of effect will happen. Okay. Another one is when they've been abandoned or ghosted by someone, they're scorned. And so they all of a sudden, it was caused by that person suddenly not having an interest anymore. They suddenly disappeared. They just didn't want that relationship, and there was no closure. So she's scorned. And it could cause attachment trauma in a new relationship or fear of vulnerability. So you really have to find out about any past relationships. So you do have to ask a person, when was your last relationship? What happened in your last relationship? You need to know if this person is scorned. You got to have a conversation, because you don't know if you don't ask. Another one is they've gotten repeated broken promises by the person that they made, people they've had past relationships with. That happens when they've constantly had false hope of the relationship going to be, or may have had inconsistency. And so they learn helplessness, and they're scorned because that person didn't give them consistency. It was just inconsistent. It just wasn't. They say they was going to do something and just never did it. And they're holding on to it. And they're holding on to what they said they were going to do. They kept giving them hope that they were going to marry them, and then never did. It just got worse and worse. So now she's scorned. Okay? Another one is financial or possibly emotional exploitation. And it happens when a person is being used for their status, their money, their resources, their emotional labor. They're being used, and they realize they are. So then they become angry. They feel ashamed. They have a detachment against people because they think everybody's going to treat them that same way. So especially like if they funded somebody's dream, and while they did that and then they helped them, then they ignored them after they got what they wanted. So now that person was generous, she was generous, and now you don't know me? Yes, she's scorned. So you have to pay attention to her emotion, her anger, and shame. Something happened within a past relationship. You're not going to be able to fix these things, I'm telling you. I'm going to give you a few more, and then I'm going to let you go. Abuse. And abuse is one of them. And if you watch me, I haven't talked about that lately, but when a person is abused, sometimes they're so scorned that they hold on to that type of abuse, that verbal abuse, that emotional abuse, that psychological type of abuse, and they hold on to it. And they have no trust in anyone. They're numb because they're scorned. And so after years of may have done with that and deal with it, they come to reality. And so their heart is hardened because they're scorned by the abuse that they receive. You understand? So you really need to know what someone has been through. And then I'm going to give you one more. When someone has unresolved childhood trauma, you have to find out what triggered that. What triggered that type of relationship? Because sometimes your partner could have had some form of abandonment and may have did something in their life that you're just not asking. Everybody's not going to be the same. And I talk about this all the time, guys. You have to have a conversation with the person that you're getting to know, because their emotion could be flooded with rage, and you need to know what they may have dealt with. Because if they had any type of childhood fear, they're going to be treating and acting a certain kind of way. And this is not the kind of person that you really want to have a relationship. Because when this happened to a person, when they're scorned, especially when their psychological impact happens, and that's what happens to most of them. It's a mind thing that they have had to deal with based on lies and cheats and emotions and distrust and abandonment. A lot of things cause them to be scorned. And so what you have to do is, this person has an emotional armor up, because they're going to be detached from you. They're going to, their attachment may cause them to be, have some type of patterns based on how they act. They may be anxious on the basis of how they deal with you. So you have to pay attention to the way people act. They may want to fight all the time. They may want to argue with you a lot. They may say things like all men are liars. They're just going to lose any type of rational understanding because of their hurt and their pain. And so when someone has dealt with betrayal, you have to stay alert on why these emotions have them at a place, because they're going to always feel their love that they're in with someone is a threat. It's always going to be a threat. It's not going to be a peace. And so you have to be aware. So my thing, and I'm going to give you a few solutions to this, to deal with a person that you may come across that has been scorned. I'm going to give you a few things that if you recognize it, how to deal with it. And hopefully you don't stay in this kind of relationship. But if you like this person enough that you want to, you just have to be aware how to deal with this type of relationship. So if you have a person that that want to heal from being scorned, okay? If they have went through an emotional issue, right? You just have to learn to create emotional safety. Meaning, try to be as honest as you can, be consistent about what you're going to do, be patient, because they're not going to trust you. To trust them takes a minute, and they'll tell you they don't trust you because they've been scorned, okay? And so it's going to take time, because the suspicion is always going to be the same, they believe, with the next person. And so if this is the person that you want, it's going to take time to build that trust back. Another one is that when they're dealing with their pain, they might have some form of hostility and they're injured. And so everything's not going to make sense, because right now their behavior and how they're acting is, they may come towards you because they're angry with the person that treated them in the way that they did. So you just have to be aware of that. If a person is like that, you just have to encourage, they need to seek help, get some healing, therapy, coaching, journaling, just something, meditation that regulate their thought process, and something that can guide them to have a better reflection on life and themselves, and separate themselves from the past and bring them to the reality. So a lot of times you have to encourage a person to understand that's gone. Let's deal with now. Stop holding on to your past pain and let it go. Teach them to rebuild a different identity beyond that wound that they went through, where somebody hurt them and they took whatever they believe, and being betrayed. You know, you have to help them understand their value and who they are, and to let go. Teach them boundaries instead of having a wall up, because most scorned women are going to have a wall up because they don't feel that they're protected. And so there's a wall up based on what they went through. And so they're going to shut down emotionally, and sometimes that happens. And you have to learn how to deal with a person that goes through that. So a lot of times we're dealing with, when women are scorned, it's all about their emotions that they've been through. And the best thing that you can do is ask them to get some form of healing, so that they can get through any wound or any walls or any traumas they have dealt with. Okay? So I hope that this information I gave you and it spoke to you, and it means, you know, your heart is still alive, and that you can understand how to help somebody who's dealing with pain, and hopefully you can help them heal with them together and them not alone, and help them through this journey of betrayal and abandonment and emotional wound, that you can help them understand it's okay. But they do need to get private consultation. They do need to process their hurt. They need to reset their emotions and their boundaries. They need to rebuild the trust without losing themselves. They really need this. So if you're that person dealing with this, your pain is valid, but it doesn't have to define your future. And healing is not a weakness. Healing is a power. Get healed and get power so that you can deal with what you're going through. You weren't born scorned. You were hurt. And so what is wounded can be healed. So I hope if you're a person that is dealing with this pain, is to get some private consultation and get some help. You deserve to restore your heart and have someone that you can love you and you can trust. So if you're a person that need to book a private session with me, go in the link in the description below, and I'm willing to help you through this journey if you are in that place. But if you're the person that's helping someone, again, like I said, learn to understand their pain and possibly what they're going through and why their walls up. You need to have a conversation, and that's where the communication comes in. Okay? So I hope the information I gave you will help you understand a scorned woman. So thank you for joining me. We'll be back again. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to come back and talk about love, love,